Alright guys, we are back for another Dokkan battle video. So we have got two new red zone stages. It seems like red zone is going to be probably the type of difficult content they're going to continue pushing. I do like red zone, right? You know, these stages have a variety of difficulty. Sometimes the enemies can have interesting gimmicks. I think the rewards are pretty good. You know, the stones, the tickets, and then also the support memories that we get are very good, right? The GT, the movie hero, and then now what we're going to get is the Wicked Bloodline. All of these support memories are incredibly powerful. So we have two new stages here added to the Wicked Bloodline red zone. And we can go ahead and take a look at them, and we can compare them sort of to the difficulty level of some of the other red zone stages, right? So let's go and start with stage 3. This is King Cold and Mecha Frieza. Now, this is... it's interesting. Because if you look at this stage, I mean, you look at some of these numbers, and this is just not tough, right? I mean, let's skip ahead. So we have Mecha Frieza at 784,000 damage he does on his super attack. King Cold is doing 742,000, right? So, you know, if you were, you know, type neutral, right? Like, think about it that you would need about that much defense to be able to tank it for double digits. Although if you're a super class unit, you need more. Y'all get it, right? Now, let's just... 784,000. Let's just take a look at, like, the GT red zone. How deep do we get before we hit an enemy that's hitting about that? Dude, Rildo. Like, look at this. Baby is already at 1 million. Stage 4, right? Super 17's at 1 million. These guys are jumping. Well, I mean, they're not. This fight is just so long that that's not really too bad. Even though the last fight against Ice, he does lock, right? Nova, you know, basically does 1 million damage, which is annoying, right? But it's like this just does not seem that to, like, this is a very easy fight. Now, the reason it's like, you know, if you compare, this is the third stage, right? So, like, if we compare this to Rildo in his final phase is doing about similar damage. If we compare this to the third fight for the movie side of things, well, Cooler's doing a lot more damage, right? He's at damn near 1 million right there. But this fight just pales in comparison, and especially if we go backwards. Let's look at Cooler. Cooler, this is the most damaging boss turn 1 outside of, again, like the third fight in Goku Family Extreme Super Battle Road. It's the only time I think you're going to encounter enemies who are doing, like, more damage turn 1. And I only think they do. This Cooler is ridiculous turn 1, right? And then look at the second phase. 1.5 million he's doing in his final form here. This is stage 2 of the Wicked Bloodline, right? 1.5. This is nearly, he's hitting nearly as hard as Omega, right? It's very similar. Omega's at 1.575. This guy's at 1.52, right? And then even in phase 1, you know, this Frieza fight is interesting. It's another one of these fights where it's so long that it really does not, it just doesn't, you know, end up being like the toughest fight in the game or anything like that because of how long it is. But, you know, you have the second form, which has an AoE. He doesn't do that much damage, only 375,000, so it's easy to play around. But, you know, the final phase is tech. So you want to bring a lot of int characters, you know, Namek Goku, maybe int UI Goku, and they could get slapped up by this second form Frieza. Although I've found Namek Goku, like, he doesn't get one shot. This Frieza's not strong enough to, like, one shot Namek Goku, right? Like, say, it happened to me over and over and over and over and over again in like, the Bojack fight, right? But you get to this Frieza, who's 750,000. Again, this is, like, 10 turns deep into it or something like that. But he then stacks attack, which then buffs the full power Frieza, who's at 1.4 million, right? So it's like stage 1 is at 1.4, stage 2 is at 1.5, and then stage 3, they just drop down. It's bizarre. I can't explain it. I mean, they just wanted to throw in an easy fight, sure. I mean, I will take it if it's like, you know, like they just wanted to mix things up, right? So like stage 1, because you look at stage 1 and these other ones, right? Against like Legic and then Turles. Like Legic is like a free fight. Turles is a free fight, right? So here in the Wicked Bloodline one, it's the third stage is actually the free fight. So it looks like 2 of these Frieza soldiers can't even super attack. This is crazy, right? Like, this guy's doing 95,000. This dude's doing 93,000. only this Frieza soldier can actually super attack right here. And he only does 250,000. Right? This is a joke of a stage. Mecha Frieza is not really too crazy. The only other gimmick besides there's just like the two bosses, Mecha Frieza and King Cold. King Cold, every single turn, will randomly seal one of your characters. Every turn, a character is going to get sealed, right? So you do have to sort of play around that fact. The fact that you are always going to have one character not be able to super attack. It could be a problem, right? LR Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta gets sealed, Tech Ultimate Gohan gets sealed, Namek Goku gets sealed, or, you know, Final Form Cooler, these types of characters get sealed. It can be an issue, but with 700,000 damage, I mean, we're used to fighting Broly and shit, dude. Like, Broly is at 1.2 million double supering, right? Like, so it's just, this fight is just free. It's just not a tough fight. It's crazy. It's crazy. Now, this one did kind of, is like, wow, geez, this is not tough at all. At least, I do think the Metal Cooler fight is actually pretty tough. They did a good job with this one. So, we have this guard right here, the Cyclopean guard or whatever the hell. This guy hits really hard. Look at this. So, he does 750,000 damage, and then he reduces damage received by 50% from all types except for STR. So, you know, you could be stuck on this guard for a little bit, and he can do big-time damage. 750 turn 1 can be an issue, right? Like, that's a lot. So, it's like, again, think of these characters. You know, Namek Goku gets super attacked by this guy, and you've lost, basically. Right? If you don't have an item up, Namek Goku gets supered by this guy, you lost. GG. It's done. You know, and this guy also does debuff as well. The attack debuff I don't think is really that big of a deal. Honestly, it could be a good thing, right? To keep you in this first phase a little bit longer. But the defensive debuff can, of course, always be an issue. Wow, even his normals are at 300,000. Is there another boss that hits that hard immediately? Because this core is at 290. What about any of these? What about, like, Broly? What is Broly at? Well, here's Omega. 220. And then, yeah, Broly is at 230. 255 for Janemba. Okay, yeah, so, yeah, dude, this guard, he hits really hard. Not even his super attack, but his normals. So it's like you need 300k defense to be able to tank this guy turn 1. So you can see that this guard, you know, you don't want to let him lull you to sleep because he can immediately kill you and you lose, right? Then we have Metal Cooler. Metal Cooler is definitely strong. If you want to compare his stats to someone, he probably is Broly. Let's pull up AGL Broly right here. So, Metal Cooler is at 450 attack per normal. Broly's actually only at 400,000. Metal Cooler has more HP, 55 million, whereas Broly's got 50 million. Broly's at 1.2 million, whereas Metal Cooler's at 1.26. And it's like you could sort of see how Metal Cooler is a threat right here, right? Because a lot of his stats are just more impressive versions of Broly. The difference, though, is that Metal Cooler is super attacking once, right? Only one super attack, whereas this guy could double super. And in order to get to him, you got to go through his bullshit AoE phase and his tech phase, which, you know, this Wrath Broly's got hands as well. So it's like that makes this guy not as bad of a threat, right? The fact that he's only supering once and it's only the second phase, even though the Cyclopean Guard is tough, you don't have to get through like an AoE phase where you have to, you know, kind of team build around this phase as well. I wouldn't necessarily say you have to team build around this guy, but you certainly cannot bring SCR units with how powerful Metal Cooler is. He's too strong for a majority of SCR units outside of, you know, Final Form Cooler and other, you know, choice exceptions. You really don't want to bring SCR units into this fight. Cooler does also heal. 13% HP is certainly a lot, but I don't, you know, when I was fighting him, he was healing like 7 million. Like, he healed like 7 million one time. That's like a number that that's stuck in my head. I would imagine you're going to be doing more than 7 million damage per turn to this guy, right? Especially if you're running like a proper setup, you know, you get Carnival LR Goku or the LR Gods and stuff like that. They can take huge chunks of this guy's health off, right? Very fast. So I don't think his HP regen is really going to be anything too negative to have to deal with. And then the other thing is he does raise his defense, but this does not really amount to anything. It's like he's giving himself a little bit of extra defense, but you're doing millions of damage, right? Like he's getting like an extra couple thousand defense while you're doing millions. So it doesn't, like, him raising defense is not scary whatsoever, right? And if you crit, you ignore defense anyway, so it doesn't matter, right? A much scarier effect, again, is what Frieza's doing. Frieza building his attack, both final form and full power, this is a scarier effect, right? Bosses raising their defense is worthless unless they're raising their defense at this point into like the millions or something like that, right? It's not the OG days where, you know, those Broly bosses were tough because their defense was high. It's not like that, right? So this Cooler increasing his defense, it's not scary at all. If he was stacking attack, that would be a little bit more of a threat, right? Because he would just get stronger and stronger, right? I mean, if they wanted to give him something scarier, they could have done something besides that. Oh, another reason Cooler is, of course, much easier than Broly is because you can't dodge Broly, which still makes him so tough, right? Whereas, of course, we can actually dodge Metal Cooler right there. So there is the two fights, right? The Metal Cooler fight, as well as King Cold and Mecha Frieza. Metal Cooler is a legitimately tough fight. If I had to rank it, though, I don't know. I feel like I want to say this Cooler fight is tougher, though, right? Like, this fight is, like, if I had to rank these, I would probably go something like, so let's rank Red Zone. Cell Max is the hardest fight in the game, for sure. But let's rank Red Zone stages. I think it's like Broly, Omega, Final Form Cooler, probably Bojack, Metal Cooler, Frieza. Probably something like that, I think. But it's like, so far, none of these Wicked Bloodline stages, I don't think that they're approaching upon the level of difficulty that Omega and Broly are bringing to the table. I also am not necessarily upset about that. I think that the Final Form Cooler stage, the Frieza stage, and the Metal Cooler stage are fine, right? I think they're totally fine for the stages that they are. This one maybe is a bit too easy, but I mean, it's not like Mecha Frieza and King Cold showed up on planet Earth and they were big threats, right? Trunks is just like, okay, goodbye, instant death. Right, so I don't know. Let me know what you guys think of the, fights, of course. Mecha Frieza, King Cold, and Metal Cooler. Metal Cooler fight is definitely fun. Shoutouts to Luca Dokkan and Raspy, of course, for the nice infographics. Always nice to see. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know which one of the, 4 Wicked Bloodline fights is your favorite. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.